attempting to understand our son's face. There were second and third phone calls. The news rolled in. Jackson had no right eye, a very small jaw and chin, no external ear. Significant facial cleft, they called it in the genetic counselor's office when we asked what language we should use to tell family and friends. I inhaled the words, and they filled my lungs with cold water, and it seemed that every breath for the next 20 weeks of my pregnancy came out like a gasp. During those 20 weeks, between the first phone call and Jack's first breath, we drove hundreds of miles to and from the hospital, to and from each consultation, each proximate diagnosis. When we drove, we listened to songs about miracles. We listened to praise music from our childhoods, gospel choirs, and old hymns. We never played Sutton Foster's song, but we were still singing about the Jordan River. We were still singing about water that Jesus might walk on to come save us from what each appointment said was probably coming. After Jack finally arrived, we lived 43 days in the NICU, our hearts beating outside us in a blue, yellow, and red crib in what was labeled the pink room. Jack had surgery just 3 weeks into his life to receive a tracheostomy and gastrostomy button, G-button, his breathing and eating both to be done through tiny tubes nestled in tunnels of tissue carved by surgeons. We were scheduled for 17 consultations, over 3 pages of appointments, before we were discharged. We drove home on a gray November morning, too tired to think about singing. Jack slept, and for the first time since that 20-week mark, I didn't have anything left to pray. Jackson's first and favorite lullaby was Poor Wayfaring Stranger. I'm only goin' over Jordan. I'm only goin' over home. He still falls asleep leaning against my chest as I sing. I tell him again and again that these are the songs of our family. We are traveling up to the river, to the edge of it, and somehow out into the water itself. I whisper across the wisps of his blonde hair that I do not know how we came here, how to measure the expectations we once had against the weight of the miracles we were given. Jesus was calling us all, even you, Jack, I say, to get out of the boat and come meet him. Meeting him, I promise, Jack, is never what you once imagined. Someone bought the Jesus Storybook Bible for Jack, and it says that when Jesus is sent from the Jordan River, it is the beginning of the great rescue. Jesus rises from the water to do works many could not have believed except that they had seen them. Some couldn't believe them even then. Jesus comes up from the river to meet us, wayfarers with just our toes at the edge of the water, trying to find our way. Jesus was sent away from the Jordan to bring us back to it, to make us get out onto the water, far beyond where we might have gone on our own, out where our feet can't touch the bottom. I'm coming to believe that's where we find God, in the river that's wide, but not too wide. That's where I am now, searching for him. That's where he took me, and where I brought myself. This is a book about wading deep in the Jordan River, into those months where I prayed for miracles and the months that followed. This is a book about wading out in the confidence of one belief and finding that your feet can't touch the bottom, that you might not know how to swim, that it is harder to see Jesus than you first thought. This is a book about the death of old love and the labor of new. A book about God. A book about forgiveness. Chapter 1. Diagnosis. I was sitting just outside the philosophy office at a round table, working on a set of logic problems when the department's office manager poked her head around the corner. She motioned me into the office and pointed to one of the phones, its red hold light flashing a steady rhythm. As a graduate student, I didn't have my own work phone, so on the OBGYN intake form I had filled out 16 weeks before, I had listed the philosophy office number. I had assumed no one ever called work phones. It was the OBGYN office. Are you somewhere private?